as a whole.
All right.
I will open this up. We have a special meeting this evening, Monday, May 23, to, we'll refer to this as a budget workshop to work on some budget figures in anticipation of preparing the 2023 budget.
Recall one of the things that I wanted, in addition to reviewing the budget, especially important for our two newest board members, is just to get a feel for what the accounts are, where we are year to date. And this is something we haven't done before. We always waited just until budget time before we went through the budget. And then invariably we end up with all these questions and what is this account again? And what's in here? Why is it so high? Why is it so low? And I just felt that if we kind of do this review earlier in the season, when it comes to budget time, it should be so much easier. And usually at budget time, we're up against the deadline and we're scrambling for last minute meetings.
Because when is the budget due?
The budget is due in November, but the process starts in September. I think the tentative budget is at the end of
September, is that the tentative?
Was it tentative in September? Okay, yeah.
I think the latter part of September, my recollection was the tentative, that would be it.
Yeah.
We've got a calendar that can pinpoint all of them.
One of the other things that I wanted to do, if you recall, was I wanted to give more visibility to the town residents into the budget. And in particular, fund balance, which we've admittedly, we haven't done a good job over the years of providing good enough detail to the folks in town of where we are with fund balances. So I went through like 10 different budgets from different towns in the area, towns and villages, just looking at theirs just to see what they present to the people, and maybe there's some ideas that we could incorporate into our format. And I found I came up with 5 suggestions, and I got pronounced the suggestions, things that we ought to consider adding to provide more visibility. But since Rick's going to be a little late for the meeting and he's the most experienced person, why don't we wait on looking at those until he's here? So I think he'll have he might have some good input. Good thing to think that maybe we would. So.
Agreed. I spoke to Teresa today, not Teresa, the attorney, but Teresa, the CPA with Weston Company, and discussed the fund balances and told her what our goal is to have the fund balances prior to the end of the year quantified in such a way that know exactly what was there. She assured me that they are rebuilding from the start of the year, putting all of the numbers together. They didn't really come on board until April of this year. So they're putting together January through March and into April, and it's going to take them some time. They do have some questions for us about certain numbers, which account they should be charged to. So she'll be providing those questions to me. We'll collectively review those, but they know what our goal is, and they're ready to work with us to make that happen. And I also said another thing we need to do is, and this is John, what you just brought up. I said the format of the numbers that we had previously were put together in such a way that if you're an intimately trained financial person who might be able to make sense out of it, I said this needs to be put together in such a way that it's in layman's terms and easily readable by anyone So she's on board 100% with that. I think, as you know, they do the same thing for the town of Broad, but they've done that for a number of years. So I have experience with this. Broad a little bit bigger than Waitsburg, not a lot. But, top of the size town for the sake of argument. So working on that, that'll get us a long way in the right direction.
Yeah, the fund balance is, so that, I mean, the fund, basically the fund balance is that amount of money that we've got that we haven't spent. Right? So if it gets carried over from year to year, just to give the newer folks in perspective, back about, I'd say 7, 8 years ago, this our balance was up to like $2.2 million of extra money. And that was too much. And the controller at the time did an audit, or done an audit prior to that, so you guys got to say about that. It's way too much of the taxpayers' money just to be holding on to like a bank account. So gradually since then, we've whittled that down. We've been able to pad the budget each year with some of that money. It's helped us through some difficult times. But always with the goal in mind that we want to whittle that down to a manageable amount. We put together, a couple of years ago, we put together a fund balance policy, which we never even had. And I believe that fund policy says our target is somewhere around $1 million. That we had hoped to have it. I think our fund balance is actually lower than that right now. But it was a little bit tricky because we wanted to weed down that extra money without relying on it so much that when we got it to a good point, we don't end up with a tax increase. So we were always looking to like have that soft landing. So, but the fund balance, and the only real way to see the fund balance is through the AUD. It is filed with the controller's office. And I spent a half hour trying to find that today. I couldn't. So when we get to we talk about like some towns just post a link to that directly on their website. But even a link to the AED, there's so much information in that. And how many pages it is, but it's not like 100 pages or something crazy. So it's still unwieldy. The only thing trying to do is find out what the balances are. So some of the towns actually put that right in their budget, which is really so. Okay. So the other reason we're here, obviously, is to kind of go through this, ask any questions you might have, so you guys get familiar with how the budget is set up. And we'll probably have some questions of harm as to why is the number so low, why is it so high. Sometimes there's expenses that just hit all at once at a certain time of year, so it might show 0 until the end of the year, and all of a sudden it'll jump up. Those are the types of things we want to be able to feel comfortable that after 4 months, which is what this report is here, that after 4 months, are we okay? Are we on track to hit our budget? And if not, why not? And do these adjustments?
I have a question.
Go right ahead.
First line, real property taxes. So that budget is based on what we know we are billing everyone, so we know exactly what that is.
Yes, that's based on the assessments. It's the total money that we raise at tax time.
And what is the sales tax? How do we judge that?
That's a projection that comes from the county.
Okay.
And it's based upon what they perceive as a likely number, and that can fluctuate. I do know, and I don't want to speak out of turn, because I don't want to obligate anybody for anything here. I do know that their revenue to date at the county level has thus far, and remember, we're in May, so they've got numbers through March at this point, has exceeded the anticipated revenue, and that's as a result of inflation. So higher prices mean higher percentage, higher sales tax. So it's it's very possible that the sales tax revenue we will see throughout the course of the year will be above and beyond what was anticipated. We all, and having said that, as we look towards next year, we all know that a lot of numbers for expenditures are going to go up as a result of it. But I don't want to digress too much.
No,
The sales tax, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah,
It's a
it does.
projection and it's subject to fluctuation.
how, can we get that all at once though? Or we get it on an ongoing?
Every month, we get a check.
Oh, every month we get a check. Oh, okay, so that's why that's what I'm saying.
Sales tax is a monthly check, real property taxes looks like we get it when everybody pays it.
We are normally, the town itself is made whole, usually by January 31st. Anything after that, we send directly to the county or Jenny. So we're made whole first and foremost.
So the question is, why would that be zero right now?
Well, the thing is they came in April, so they are literally trying to,
So it's a matter of getting close.
it's just a matter of them
Perfectly
putting in all the
understandable.
deposits and everything
Okay,
and getting a
okay.
better.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, we should kind of know where we are
Yeah.
with that by now, but yeah, it makes sense.
It
That's
is.
still just get caught up, that's fine.
Right.
Yeah. Any other questions about any of these other income categories?
I feel like those are the two biggest,
Yeah.
so as far as,
What is stated?
I want to say that's third quarter,
Okay.
if I remember correctly, that's third quarter.
And mortgage tax, there's gotta be a catch-up item too.
Yep.
This is something that we tax, we get monthly damage.
Nope, that is a quarterly.
It's always quarterly. Okay.
so we won't be judging the real property tax for next year, we will control the taxes for next year.
That's I mean, it comes out of our budget, right? So once we know, when we sit down at budget time, what we do is we determine how much money we need, right? So we go, we look at what we estimated for this year, what we've actually spent so far, kind of make a guess
Okay.
to get us to the end of the year, and then do an estimate for the following year. And then there is sales tax.
Well, I mean, like.
But
real property
the
taxes
difference,
are
of what you
property
need
taxes.
is gonna be, it starts out with, we're gonna raise all that money. And then it's a matter of, well, what kind of fund balances do we have
No, I
from
mean, like,
last year?
just even for this line alone for next year, we
Yes.
will know exactly what that is, because we know exactly what we're billing for everyone.
Yes, we don't get it all. There's always delinquents, like Carm says, there's a certain number that we turn over to Sharon. But we should get, what we get close.
So we just estimate with like a percentage increase.
For next year,
Yeah, or do we
it only
take,
depends on what we estimate on spending. I mean, the spending is what we estimate first. And then we say, okay, we need $2 million. Where's it gonna come?
okay,
Okay, we're estimating this much is gonna come from sales tax.
I mean,
How's our fund balance? We can use some of that, and the rest of it, we gotta do taxation.
when we did this as a group at Lena, that's what we did, but some things are definitely. So I didn't know if that was, like we already knew the monetary amount that we were getting for taxes, but it sounds like we don't.
Well, no, we have to
No.
make that determination, and that determination is predicated upon anticipated expenditures.
Yeah.
So if we are in a situation where, take an example, we have some expenditure item that's a must, that we have. Bad example, let's just suppose we said we have no more volunteer fire department. No, that's not true. So I hesitate to even say that. We have no more volunteer fire department, we now have a paid fire department. So that would result in the expenditures going up substantially. Where do we get that from? And that's done based upon the tax rate of applied to assessed value. And so that would mean that the residence tax bill would increase. Odds are, because of inflation, it's going to go up a little bit from last year. Our goal is always to make it go up as little as possible by trying to be resourceful of what expenditures we make.
Okay.
But that's, yeah, that's a fluid number year to year.
Fund balance in year two. So again, in order to keep the taxes low, we have that, still have some money in reserve, so we use that in order to keep tax increase management. And actually, it was a larger increase last year, percentage wise. I forget what the percentage increase was. I mean, dollar amount was only like $50 a house or something, but because our town budget is so small, the percentage is like, you know, there's no way to move a 2% cap. We have to go well over it. It's the catch-22, right? If you manage bare bones budget, then if you do have a surprise expenditure for next year, all of a sudden you've got this high percentage increase. I've never been a fan of the tax cap for that reason. It kind of punishment for small towns that have little budgets. Because in a small town now we need a plow truck for next year. A huge expense. So you can blow out your budget percent. There's no way you're going to get under 2%. You know. So then you have to pass the law. You have to have a hearing. Everything gets called into question. When really it's you've been as frugal as you possibly can. And I just personally don't like overreaching into the towns other than that. Takes me off.
Well, and another problem with the January property tax bill is when we announce what the town tax increase will be by 1%, most people refer to their tax bills. The September bill is the school tax bill, the January bill is the town property tax bill, when in fact, if you look at the line item on it, a very small number, very small percentage of that is the town tax. The lion's share of it is a county tax, which includes a lot of state mandates, many of which are social services. So there are fixed numbers in there that all go to other places other than town.
Okay.
If you look at the breakout on it, the amount that's in there for the town is relatively minuscule. I want to say, what is it, John? About 20% of the total, I believe, is what the town is. 20% or less of the total is town.
Yeah.
And that includes fire, that includes sewer, emergency services.
Yeah.
That includes everything.
Do we have a more complete breakdown of the budget from last year?
We will have that momentarily. Carmen's upstairs making copies of it.
Yeah.
Is that,
Yeah. Yeah.
try to get a little better idea.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So the largest expense that I see here for the general fund A is the ambulance contract. Is there any way we can make that a what's the or a tax issue? So it's not really technically coming out of the budget because it's just going to keep going up because
And this is where I'm not good, and I'd be
I mean, I don't
I'd be
know
looking to Teresa for that question, because I'm not sure. I don't know. It's always just been part of the main budget, so I don't know.
Well, regardless of how you slice it, the number's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
And so the expenditure has to be made by the residents. And there isn't any way you're going to get around that.
Typically, your districts are where only certain areas are covered, right? So, you know, Lansing has water, we have sewer districts. Yeah, the ambulance, I'm not sure. Well,
That's been a problem. Statewide, we've got people we've talked to who specialize in this to look at some possible alternatives, other ways to address that as far as incentives for volunteers to be quasi-volunteers based upon, and it's premature to talk about anything that we may be able to do. But we do have people looking into alternatives that would be more cost conservative than having to have paid services all the way.
so if you look at the first page of the budget, I mean, that's the summary of the whole thing, right? So the four major funds, and then the individual districts down below. So you can see how much that fund balance we used last year, and we still had to go over the tax cap. Luckily, we did have some reserve money that we could still use. So I think this is, when I look at the expenses on this report, so is it safe to say all these things need to be updated? Because I mean,
The only thing,
compared to
this-
the budget, this shows that we spent like nothing.
well, because there's zero payroll in here yet.
Okay.
So that's a big factor because they were so focused on setting up all of our funds and all of our budget into their new system and making sure that as of April 1st, they were able and ready to pay our vendors. That was a
Sure.
priority
Sure.
over
Getting the checks now.
getting all of this accomplished. They're working at it diligently, back and forth with different reports. So there is zero payroll in there.
Yeah.
That's what you're missing a big chunk of.
Okay.
I can say payroll is on track. We are right where we should be, in the 5th month,
Yeah.
3rd week.
Yeah.
It's all budgeted out, and it's all spread out evenly.
Yeah, a lot of these, this first page of.
It's all, right,
Yeah, it's all everything, so, yeah. All, mostly.
Is that something that maybe we should have another meeting? We can see.
Well, we'll certainly get an updated report, to take a look at it. Whether we need to have another meeting, maybe, let's see, when they get caught up, it'll be interesting to see what we got, so not a lot we can do with this. At this point. So that. Yeah, the ambulance, that's still outstanding, right? Yeah, right, I saw the email on that, yeah.
right. We still do have the fire district's money.
Yeah.
Because they, the big work hasn't been.
Those will probably both be cleared relatively soon.
So unallocated insurance, the insurance commitments, well, yeah. Probably, it's not a monthly thing, right? I'm looking at 1910. Kind of 1910.
Oh, right. And they still have to take all of what I sent them for January, February, and March invoices. And they still have to continue to input all of the old stuff that was paid for by the old company. So it was just a lot of them.
Yeah, the timing isn't good right now. because
Right.
They just get off.
They're still trying to,
They're only 6 weeks or so into this.
Right.
So, yeah.
and a big bulk of that insurance does come in the fall, though. For whatever reason, it comes in the fall for renewals.
Okay.
I know you said we were whittling away at that $2 million surplus. Does that mean that we were under budgeting every year, or was it just extra projects that the town undertook?
Yeah, at the time when that got built up, Yeah, when Renee was supervisor, she was extremely conservative about making sure that she would never under budget. I mean, over budget. So she would regularly underestimate income and overestimate expenses. And then from year to year, didn't roll that money into the next year's budget. She just would hold on to it and do a new budget. So each year just kept growing, just kept growing. Yeah, and I was only on the board for maybe like a year or two under Renee, so. So I'm not sure, Rick would know more historically about, were they even using fund balance at all? But what happened is it was just getting built up year after year, after year, so the controller office said, hey, guys, then knock it off.
Yeah, the controller's office, their rationale of that is that the municipality is overtaxing the residents by doing so, because it was unspent funds.
You can understand, right? You're taxing someone who lives in the town now.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna spend it till they moved out 5 years later, so you understand the concept there.
Yeah.
And that's for, what's the word I'm looking for? Not unallocated, but, you can have a very large surplus of money as long as you categorize it. So you can say, this is for a new building. And we're gonna build it up to $200 million, so it's specifically for that, you can't use that money for anything else. But what this was just, it wasn't earmarked for anything, it was just extra money. That you can. So if you're trying to build up money for a truck or a building or something like that, there's no problem. You can go whatever percentage you need to, but you can't have it to not actually for a specific
Do
purpose.
we have any other fund balances that are used for that particular reason?
No, there is no, the reserve money we have now is all unallocated. It's not in the one thing.
How long before we need it? Smart to put
I mean, you can't mix highway with town,
Oh,
so. Yeah, you can't mix. So these major funds, the A fund, the B fund, the BA, the DB.
is there anything that we would save money for besides construction?
There's nothing that we've ever talked about. I mean, I think it could be for any purpose, but. Yes, you can put it, you can create a fund. Right, you can create a fund for the roof, and then, yes, you could put money in that and you can keep it. Yeah, so that, like I said, if our policy says $1 million and it's our target, that could be, it's almost like it's like an off list item, so you can still have your million, then you can have whatever you want for the roof. Separate.
I'm just thinking of all the extra things that we're gonna need. We should have a fund balance.
It's possible, it's something that we could do, at budget time, we might say, what kind of a total reserve money are we sitting on now, And based on how much we have, we might say, well, it's getting kind of high, why don't we take some of it and put it specifically for that purpose, so that it's not unallocated, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, you can't, A and B is for town, DA, DB is highway, and you can't mix that. You're taxing for highway, it's gotta be for highway. And typically, we don't have a big extra balance in highway. I'm gonna say total is probably under 100, right?
Yeah.
That's what we've been in the town. That's really-
little bit bigger this year because of COVID. You weren't spending that money on new equipment or moving it around, so. He's got money for things now, but usually he's pretty tight.
We have difficult things like estimating, like force fines.
Sure.
Do the troopers feel like writing out tickets or don't? Seriously, I mean, it's, it really, I mean, if, when you see them on I-88, don't necessarily curse them because you need the money, you know, you just don't want it to be you. Yeah. So there's been crazy fluctuations over the years in that number. It's whether they're writing down tickets or not.
Did they write a very building?
No. No. So we lost a lot of that
Yeah.
revenue.
Yeah.
Now they're really, you know, it's like they're back into the full swing.
Yeah.
Well, since that not caught up, well, again, there's not a whole lot we can do with this. I would say if there were any numbers that were high or over, that would be a problem. It's not everything is in here yet. But
Would more be for the vendors, you know, if anything, and we were at least right on target in March. When we got that from BST.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying, from their
Yeah.
supervisor's report is much.
Yeah.
It's on point
Okay.
versus. These guys just jumping in.
Okay. Snow removal is another one. Estimating that, it's just take a dart and just throw it at the wall, because like this past year, it really wasn't bad, you know? Like, these are years where it's just, you're just plowing freaking every other day, you know?
So what do you try to go by last year, or do you go by,
We trend it, right? So,
anybody look at
I
the
mean, if you look at the budget, if you look at,
current almanac?
yeah, yeah, so like if you look at the budget, on this budget, you'll see when you look at the detail, there's your 2019 budget, like this was for 2022, so we've got the 2019 and the 2020 and the 2021. And then based on trending, we figure out what we want to do for 2022. You know,
Yeah.
was it a snowy winter? Yeah, so we don't want to go, you know, we're not going to spend as much money as we did last year, probably, you know what I mean? So we use those three columns there, so that we can at least trend it. Take kind of an educated guess. Yeah, if you look through it, if you have any questions about any of the accounts or anything like that. We may end up having another set up the extra numbers, so we get a better feel. You know, it's ideally at this point, you know, we'd be 1/3 for the year, we have to be able to say.
And if it's, even if we have a meeting in June, it's still not gonna be 6 months in.
No, we wouldn't be until
It'll be
July.
3 months in.
Well, no, they're putting in the back numbers, right? So,
Well, I mean, like, if she said there's nothing in here, if we, next month, it might only be caught up for the first quarter. Or they put them in real time.
No, real time.
Oh,
They're just,
they're doing it right as they
Oh,
go,
okay.
but in addition, they're also trying to.
yeah.
the field stuff.
right.
Yeah.
Back
But
to
then how do you
January 1st.
know in September? You have to go by what we, like you said. Because we're still trying to learn what's going on for this year. I feel like this year is different because it's not COVID.
Wow,
So-
it is. Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it'll be different this year than it will be the
that's right.
past couple of years.
Yeah, you're not gonna do a comparison to,
No.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
no, yeah, you're gonna need the 3 years, so that you can kind of, you know, you gotta kind of trend it, yeah. And then now with this inflation thing, it just knows. I mean, it's gonna be hard. Yeah, yeah.
That's what we're gonna go with next year, yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, it's gonna be a
Like
challenge.
if anybody's watching or will watch, understanding that it's gonna be, it's a challenge to determine how much it's gonna be to run the town based on COVID and inflation and.
Well, a couple of the big numbers you're gonna have to look at is going to be heat costs, because, all fuels follow each other.
Yeah.
So the heat cost, and we'll get a better idea when we see what prices are later in the year. And also,
Plow trucks.
yeah, the highway department, their fuels.
Yeah.
And even at a, state budget number, take a look at the cost. And, the cost for, retailers, what their cost is exorbitant right now. Way above and beyond what the retail price was, not that long.
I mentioned you can't mix the town and highway. We do have flexibility with the sales tax. So we can put however much we want of it toward highway and however much we want of it toward town.
Okay.
So if we've got, if we've got a rough year, like let's say we got a buy a town truck or something like that, we may put more toward highway as opposed to town. So or sometimes we'll kind of use it in some sort of ratio that keeps the percentage increases in town at a point where we want them,
Oh,
so we can allocate that sales tax to wherever we want.
how often do we buy new trucks? When's the last time we bought a new truck?
For the highway department,
So,
It's more than that.
it's more than that, because 2019, I was, we haven't since then.
I've done it.
Well, again, I was thinking, if you have a fund balance, is it safe to say maybe you take a little bit, even if it's $5,000 or $10,000 of that sales tax and put it in a fund balance, knowing that in 3 or 4 years, we're going to buy another truck? Or are we not?
It's not, no, you can, it's not a bad idea. Typically, we're scrambling more to keep the tax rate low.
Okay.
Then,
Nice.
let's tax a little bit more so we can save some money,
Well,
you know what I mean?
I wasn't really thinking taxing more, I'm just thinking if there's any.
Well, if you don't use that money, you have to tax more, you know what I'm saying? So,
I mean,
yeah, I mean,
Are we ever?
it's a good
under-
question.
Are we
Yeah, I
ever
mean,
under budget?
yes.
That's what I'm saying, if we're ever under budget, I mean, spending less than what we budgeted, I should say, we ever over budget, even if it's just a little bit. Is there any time where we could take some of that and put it in the fund balance?
You know more than anybody whether we're under or over.
We are under, and a lot of it has to do because of COVID.
Yeah.
Things were shut down and didn't function, everything was different, so we did have more money left at the end of the year. But in theory, we shouldn't have money left over in any fund.
Mhm.
You should have only money that will cover your January bills. So if like the highway needs $50,000 for the month of January to do their overhead and all of their bills, that's all they should have left.
And people pay their town tax bills.
Right, and then when they pay their tax bills, so it's the same cycle every year.
Yeah.
And we've had quite a bit of fund balances due to, the budget was already in place when COVID hit.
Right.
And then we thought COVID was ending.
Yeah.
So we rebudgeted this past year,
Right,
and we're still in a pattern of just, people can't afford to build houses because the costs are so expensive, so they're not coming in so much to get building permits. I mean, yes, it's up, but it's a struggle to figure out, anticipate what they're going to do. And we anticipated on the full side, and it didn't happen,
mhm.
so there's money to be
If
spent.
there's anything left over, so we can use some of it for tax. Taxes and some of it. to fund balance to save us for the future.
Possible.
I mean, that's just what I'm
No,
thinking.
it's possible,
because
yeah.
we know we're gonna buy a truck again, And
Yeah.
we know we're gonna have to put a roof on, and there's things that we know, so if we get any leftover, that we can budget for a fund balance.
Yeah, it's-
So we
it's
need that in the
possible.
Future,
We could
because
choose to do
tax
that.
money is gonna have to be used for that too.
We're gonna be in a position to see that much better when we have the fund balances
Correct.
nailed down, so we know exactly what they are.
We've had a lot of trouble at budget time understanding what our balance is.
Okay.
And then part of the reason we're not with DST anymore is the struggle.
So for these new people.
Hopefully.
Okay.
Hopefully they will be, because we're scrambling again last year to try to figure out exactly how much money do we have? and
I mean,
How much can we use?
we know, I know how much money every fund has. I do the bank recs every month, so we have it to the penny every month.
Okay.
But the problem is then when they did their system,
Yeah.
it was not matching up to what we actually know we have for cash on hand. So that was our problem. Got it.
And that's why they're starting from ground zero.
Right.
To get the correct numbers in the system. Once they're in place on a regular basis, any payable that goes in the system gets coded for what account it's got to be charged to. And you run with the general ledger system on a monthly basis, there should be a running total that's available all the time on a monthly basis. And what I want to see is, I know this, what I want to see is, we should be able to look at what is the annual budget, what's the total, and on a monthly basis, now, how much of that have we used? And so that's a tool that we can use when we put the budget together. Now, obviously, you don't spend any even percent each month of certain expenditures, but you know what those are. So, you know, the oddballs that are higher at different times of the year, you know what those are, and one of those going forward.
Because I'm guessing this 4 times. is probably some money.
Yes, there is. I get
Based on the audit.
Right.
assuming it's-
I get 2 checks every month from each judge. And just because she's trying to, Teresa is trying to get all the deposits labeled correctly in the line item. Because she was trying to use the AUD that we submitted to the state March 31st. And she's not confident in some of those numbers. So she struggles, so she requested from me, just last week or the week before, all of my bank recs as of December 31st. So that she had a starting fund balance as of January 1st, to know what the true number is going forward. So she just questioned me today on a deposit that was made, why? Okay, you know, so she could put it to the appropriate line.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to job.
No, I feel bad.
It's hard to,
I feel bad
I
because
mean, because, yeah, you got information BSB.
Especially if they
The
were
rest of
doing
it's-
appropriately.
they weren't, and so that's when we found out
Right.
during budget season last year. I was running upstairs every other 20 minutes to find something else out.
Yeah.
Hard dig it out.
They have very good capabilities, but we were a little bit out of the realm of what their typical stock and trade is. And so we did not receive the level of attention that we wanted. We found a smaller outfit that can give us more personalized attention. That's what we
Yeah, they're good, well-established company, BST, but they have a lot bigger customers, so they will get more attention. So, yeah. So,
Listening and learning.
This alone was interesting, because I didn't know of this.
oh, salaries, what's that?
Your base,
Yeah,
I was like, wow.
yeah, those town board people. they take that from me.
Yeah, it's like doing it for free.
But what will happen come like August, I try to start pulling numbers from retirement. Usually they will be able to give me that number looking forward. Your health insurance, they usually
Health
give,
insurance is hard too.
but they give you the best projected possible percentage increase. For this past year, it would have to be down. I know, it's shocking, it was down.
Otherwise,
I double checked. So
Yeah.
those numbers are kind of hard numbers. So we do have the ability to have hard numbers.
In talking to Teresa at Weston Company today, she expects to have sometime in June, much further along with these numbers than we are.
Absolutely.
So, we're gonna have a lot more workable documentation for planning purposes. And after we get that, I think is when we should plan to have another session. where we can start to look at projections and make some preliminary thoughts about what's gonna happen in August when we get into this, because if we look at it in June, August is only 2 months behind. So,
yeah, well. Well,
We have drawers here for us.
yeah,
Mailbox.
Well, I meant to, so I could leave this here and not take it.
Nobody else, you can leave it in your mailbox. Nobody touches your. We only put stuff in your mailbox.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
that's correct.
I didn't know that.
Rick's is just about full.
Oopsie.
I've been responsible.
Rick doesn't-
Guilty of that.
I didn't know I had.
Empty.
I checked yours, I put it in your
Uh,
folder.
Yeah, right. Oh,
Did you know you had an empty mailbox?
yeah, sure.
We're supposed to say no, Andrew. You're supposed to say no, I didn't know that. Thanks for having my back. Okay.
So much for the new guy team.
That's where you're gonna get mail, your pay stubs are in there. If I do direct
This is
deposit,
enlightening,
yes,
isn't
I
it?
would.
Yes, I'm like so.
That's why I checked my mailbox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you have it checked in there?
Yeah,
Oh, that's why you checked it.
And I make sure it goes to them, because the guys. Know me.
Well, that's for, that's a question
Patience.
off the record.
I'll have to probably make sure.
Highway guys do it too. It's only this,
Said,
no direct deposit.
well,
No,
Keep going with it.
yeah, well, yeah,
and if I get a check, I mobile deposit it too, so.
yeah, exactly,
Keep going.
exactly.
Do you
Yeah.
lease mobile deposit or you go to the bank?
Well, with business.
True.
Yeah, I'm in there pretty regularly.
Well, I don't know that Rick is gonna make it, so why don't we go through the stuff that I can get it. Actually, So, like I said, there were five budgets where I saw stuff where I thought it was interesting and things that we could consider adding to ours. This first one was the town of New Scotland. And see on the first page, I highlighted the stuff, so actually, this one isn't that much different. Yeah, we have, I guess our summary page is kind of similar to this, I guess, is really.
Yeah,
There,
ours,
there are, let me ask you this, well, you'll see it on, I think there's another one that I printed out where the unappropriated fund balance, so this has it by fund, just like ours does.
Mhm.
But I noticed on some of the budgets, they have it like on each account, and they do it from year to year based on that. We just roll it up into the fund, right? We don't-
Correct. like our general fund, we only have one general fund. We don't have an A and B. We only have one highway.
Yeah,
We don't break it down into,
right.
you know,
Yeah, we don't have to, right? So
No.
it gives us more flexibility to do it.
Right.
Right? Yeah,
we do break out the sewers, the fire, the lighting. And they all have their own checking
So there's no reason that you could see for us to break it down in more detail. If anything, it's just gonna be more limiting and we'd end up doing more.
These are all
transfers.
separate accounts that you say,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. All right, so let's just set that aside then. The second page on the top, this is. let's see. So. So this is showing the impact on fund balance, right? So it's showing how they got there, right? So it's for the 2022 budget, but basically saying, okay, in 2020, here, these were our balances. Then we had a surplus or a deficit, which gave us our available fund balance, in this case, the end of a year later, at the end of 2021, that they used as input into the 2022 budget. So I guess it just adds that, it just adds a little bit of history to it. To folks to
What is
see
on the
how
table.
we got there, yeah. And how we did each of those funds last year, did we go up or down in each individual funds? Before we estimate what we're doing. in the coming year. Not bad information, right? And beneath that, this is they do it by assessments for the different funds?
Let me see that. Okay.
No, we don't have anything like that.
No.
If you look at, there's actually, which you'll see it eventually, another town does, not only do they do that tax rate, actually they may have done it more of a total town level, but they did like 10 years, they showed what the tax rate was.
Oh, I saw that.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. So that's kind of interesting, because that gives you a really good handle on how your assessments have gone up and down over the years with taxes. I wouldn't think, like, we did this, let's say we did this in our next year's budget, is Mike would just give us a break, right?
Yeah.
We'd be able to take the
That'll come from him.
total dollar amounts and we would just come up with the rates.
Accessible anyway.
I don't know if there's value. To me, the historical one, if you look at, yeah, which was the last one? Yeah, the last page that you got in the packet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, see what they did with the tax rate. So they do the rate each year, and then they show that the percentage, did it go up or did it go down that year? That's kind of nice.
Yeah, you see in 2021, they went down 13.25.
Yeah, and it's nice to be able to brag about something.
Right.
Well, that's a code.
That's a COVID.
That's a
So
COVID.
that's why I was like, all right,
Yeah.
wait, that's a COVID.
That's a
So
code.
you can't, yes, you want to brag about it, but
Yeah,
in hindsight, the residents need to realize too that these aren't
right. The other shoe's gonna drop. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it should be an asterisk. That's the 2021, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
COVID
that's
related.
an outlier. When you look at the whole world, it's an outlier, it's the truth.
Yeah. Well, it looks like they have done pretty good over the years.
Oh, yeah, they're great there.
Yeah, they've done a good job.
I think our budget is very busy. I think a lot of it, all the ones that you see is just zeros across the board, it's just a very busy and very small looking, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's for some residents, they really have to take a hard look to even understand it. I just think a lot of ours is
Well-
filled with a lot of stuff.
Do you mean just column wise, or are you talking about?
Yeah, it's just very, it's like you gotta make sure you pay attention, like like we have budget 2019, 2020, 2021, then we got through 2021. The tops, and there's you know, you've got 7 columns that, you know, the residents are trying to wade through and they never seem to catch up on the right one. And then, or they really, if we've raised it enough and one, they get upset, you know? And we want to be transparent, but I don't know if there's a way of cleaning this up, you know, to not being so busy.
Well, this is really a worksheet. This was done.
What's the actual budget though?
No, that's the truth.
Right, I understand that, but some of the columns in here were worksheet columns from when we wrote them, through 9/9/2021.
Right,
You know, some of those columns are worksheet things that you probably could have taken out after the fact,
it's always there, so.
because a budget is from January through December 31, so a number like that isn't representative of anything except where we were at the time we were trying to predict numbers for where we were going to do this. Is that your recall of that as well, Jen? Yeah. This column is.
Well, yeah.
Well,
That is-
yeah, that's because, yeah, that's when we're doing the budget,
So-
so we do the best we can, we've got, here's where we are at this point, how much more are we gonna have before the end of the year?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it is busy, but you know, when, in looking through these budgets, I mean,
All different towns.
yeah, I mean, they weren't that dissimilar from us, you know?
Okay.
I mean, this is New Scotland, and you can see it's got the columns. This one here was for, this is North Greenbush, it's got all these columns. And it seems to be that they're just busy that way. I mean, here's Scahary. Final 2019, actual 2019, final 20, actual 20, tentative 21. You're all kind of the same. As busy as it is, it's pretty much the way they are. I mean, you know, if you've got suggestions.
I'm just, you know, I know Weston Company is kind of got a chuckle out of it.
Well, the font is terrible.
The font is absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, the font is terrible.
Like.
I mean, if we at least went with like a horizontal print, a landscape print,
Landscape, it
we could at least
Open it a little bit
make the
more.
font a little bigger. Yeah,
So, and like, we put the code on our budget. Most
right.
of these budgets don't have them. And she questioned me on that. She's like, why is it on there? I'm like, always has been.
They don't have the entire code.
We have to put it on.
I mean, I utilize the code on a daily basis, these codes, when I'm, you know, doing all my invoices and all of that, you know, and when we're paying people, that's where they all come from. But to the,
For the public,
I mean, yeah, I guess if the public called up and said, what is in, you know, 13,550, you know, what does that represent? Well, I guess we could pull the report on.
can't they just say,
Right, I know.
what is the budget of personnel services?
Yeah, she just, that was one of the things she questioned. She was like, wow, this is busy.
Every one of these budgets that I have has a color.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, they all have. They're burned right down into the whole account number. A lot of them just do the major code.
I mean, is it something that we need to do? Or is it just everybody else does it, so we do it too?
It's there. So it's not like it's in a spreadsheet. So it's not like we're adding,
The public gets nothing out of it.
Right.
It's just, it's for us internally.
Okay.
I think we should change the landscape.
I think that's more the thing.
Open it
If you
up.
change it to landscape, at least you can make the font readable. I mean, this is really good. It is.
It's
tiny.
terrible.
Yeah, yeah. And all these other budgets are, not all of them.
Not all of them, no, I know that's.
This isn't very readable either, but for the ones that have gone landscape, like this one, it's much
Oh, that
more
looks pretty.
readable. Yeah, I mean, it's.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely looks better.
it's all landscape.
Yeah.
One is the entire code out. There's. What do you guys think about that, the tax rate thing?
So let's see if it goes up or down.
I absolutely think, I'm showing trend. I don't know,
Yeah, I don't know that doing it by each individual fund, like this Scotland did here. Probably more, I mean, is there anybody really that wants to go into an individual life district and see what the?
No, what, I think what everybody wants, any individual can go up or down in any given year for various reasons. But I think what everybody wants to know is, what's the impact on my expenditure this year? And so the final tax rate, I think, is the only thing that's gotta be done.
Yeah, I think trying to do something like what Byrne did, I think,
Yeah, I think that's good.
right? That second one that I printed was just because I just saw on North Greenbush's website, this is just. Basically, that they had the AU, the links to the AUDs.
We do too.
Do we?
yes, we do. Once it is approved by the state, which we just had, I don't know, 10 questions requested for answers. Once it's been approved and signed, we then do put it on the website.
Oh, okay,
It is on the website.
okay, all right, good. Then scratch that, we're good with that. Yeah, because I was on control of the website, I couldn't not find anything, the website. The third handout that I had there was from the town of North Greenbush. And I thought this was interesting too, they kind of do a tax cap calculation spreadsheet. So they put the tax levy on there, any additional monies that they get received or the exclusions. And then they calculate what they're allowed, how much money they are allowed to increase the taxes by. And then they show what they're actually going to increase them by. So, well, in this case, the maximum levy they could have had was $6,004,000, and they took advantage of the whole thing. So their new budget is $6,004,000 and change. Actually,
You said it was East Greenbush?
North Greenbush. You get this one?
We don't even have I don't have the bills on any of these dollar bills. Do you?
We're not allowed to.
We don't have those.
Wait, this is, I have town of North Greenbush, this one.
Yeah. There's,
But I don't
They were
have-
what else on the back? It's on the back of that page.
That's what yours is.
You know this?
No, we don't have the one with the fancy dollar bills all on it, right? Either.
Yeah. Okay. So I can tell you what it has. Basically, it's just a tax cap summary. So they're just showing, basically they're showing dollar amounts for this year and then what's the maximum that they could raise it without exceeding the cap, and then they show how much are actually going to increase the cap. So probably not a big deal, just kind of interesting information. So
I think the more information that we can display and not hide, as some people feel we hide things by not
Yes.
giving enough,
Yes.
that maybe we won't have so many upset residents questioning every different line items. I mean, we've had a few that know their stuff and want to know answers that some of us just can't provide. So by showing it right out there. I like the idea. I like the idea, you know, and once we start, we use a standard spreadsheet Excel. In the budget.
Right.
Adds our numbers, it's easy to add a sheet, easy to add cells, it's, I don't know how other towns do it, they've just always done it on Excel here.
Those are Chinese calculation work. I don't know how you said allowable tax levy is this, but the proposed levy is actually that amount. Instead of tax cap that is. I don't know, I don't know if it's going to figure out the actual difference. But. If you want to figure out
Right,
something,
because there's gotta be a formula that
yeah.
put in there.
Yeah, yeah.
Not my
I
strong.
thought they were trying to say that they're using the whole allowable tax cap,
Yeah.
you know, but then they say it's 3% not used.
Because
We don't want to provide information that actually creates more questions.
because they're,
That
This is
example,
what
don't
they're-
use that.
they're saying that this money here is the 3.31%. So this must have been the money that they didn't use. Even though if this was the
So this is
allowable,
3% of that?
Yep.
Okay.
3.31%. Okay, so this is what the allowable tax levy was, this is the proposed, but that's the amount they didn't use, which is the 3.31. I don't know why it's. I don't know, I just know that's the 3.31%.
Yeah, okay.
Because I would have thought that if they didn't use it, it would have been, this would have been overage, no.
I don't want to do anything that makes people do with it.
Yeah.
And we
No, no,
have
no.
trouble coming up with a number,
I just.
but
have to be able to
I think,
explain it.
I think the idea is, I think it's a good thing to say, hey, you know, the tax cap issue with X, we actually did Y, whether it's over or under, whatever,
Right.
but to have it in the budget so that
Yeah.
it's there and people know.
Agreed. First time I started. Don't say no.
Yeah, you may want to tell them we're gonna be right. I'll get with him on this. Really, there's only one more, this one, I don't know. What they said, it's the town of Glenville one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, town of Glenville, 2022 adopted budget. Again, this is just more information on, or a different way of showing the fund balances. So they show at the end of 2020 what the balances were. how they did in 2021, that those balances go up or down. And then that middle part is impacts to the 20, based on the 2022 budget. Yes. So it's a reserve for stated purposes as of 9/30/21. So they've got reserve funds that are, looks like they've got reserve funds that are dedicated to certain things. So what they're doing in that middle section there is saying, okay, in 2022, what are the impacts going to be to that fund balance? And then the bottom line is based, so the top part minus the middle part gets you the bottom part, which is where they predict that the fund balance is gonna end up at the end of the year.
So that if we did have a fund balance that was allocated for repair, that's what the middle part would be.
Yeah,
So this kind of is the summary. This would just be an additional summary that we would got for people, if we did something.
right. So they've got that, yeah, so they've got the fund balance appropriated in 2022. So that's money it looks like they use just for budget items for that year. Then in addition, they've got specific fund balances, reserve fund balances that they have. Yeah. Which, like I say, we don't have any at this point. We would just have that fund balance appropriated line. And then the prediction, at the end of this year, we predict our fund balances will be X.
Do you know what's in the reserve?
If you don't, I don't.
It's been a big question, and the bank, our bank, is going to help me circumvent and find out how many there are. Are there multiple? Where are they labeled at? You know, like, what are they labeled? Is there one for highway? Is there one for sewer?
Just like
Or
we
just-
go into the controller's office for unclaimed funds.
Right, just to find out what is now, because it's all based on a you know, rolling percentage and stuff, so I really, they said they were gonna help me try to, because it's the New York Bank. So we're on that.
Okay,
As for the fund balances, right, we currently have now, we have to,
yeah, I mean,
we
we
have
know,
to deal with those three specific.
yeah, yes. Well, hopefully this, our new accounting firm is able to speed and get our heads around that.
Yeah, that's.
Well, we have those, and, you know, nice color coded as to where the money should have been taken from, or where it should have been put. So it's a matter of, you know, all of it, gotta go to general. Because it's taken out of the accounts payable, you know, they paid out of, you know, they took money from the general fund and put it in accounts payable, but it was a sewer bill. So the money that was coming in through EFC to do the sewers over the years.
Yeah.
It didn't come back out of there.
Right.
To go to 8K.
Right.
So it's just a
Yeah,
matter
that
of,
was it was supposed to be just a temporary thing.
right, and it just stayed there.
Yeah.
That money belongs to the general fund.
That's the three that you talked about.
Yes.
Yeah, we talked about this a bunch of times.
Yep, so that going forward, you know, when we get closer and stuff, I don't know how to fix that, but. Just so we know what's reserves. Roger kept using the wrong term. He's always, you know, what's in the fund balance. We'll know those are different than a reserve. You know, now we can get into that. Here we go.
Yeah.
For a little. Looks like it's almost here, so. Why did you ask?
Is there coming here anyway?
Instead of almost there anyway.
So I don't know if this is really any different than what we looked at before. I guess Well, I guess it is in that it's predicting what your balances will be at the end of the year.
Right.
So it's at least laying down a marker saying, yeah, our fund balance is X today, based on this budget.
And the trend, we're
And
heading.
we kind of, yeah, all we have in our budget right now is what we're using.
Right.
Doesn't say what we started with, what we're ending with.
Right.
It sounds like there's two reports that you would like for us to have for the residents. That being one, and the other one about the taxes.
Right, the 10-year
Right.
show.
The 10-year, yeah, and something with the tax cap, some sort of,
You work it in with the tax.
I mean, I don't think that's the least complicated.
Oh, it's probably not complicated, just complicated to us.
Yeah, well,
It's probably email.
yeah, if someone explained it to us, I guess, but you should, again, I want to provide information, we don't have to explain. So yeah, the tax rate history is a good one. I think this, with the,
Yeah.
clearly, we need more visibility from this. We know that.
Right.
We know that.
Takes care of these little Excel spreadsheets that we have for the residents.
Unless that Roger gets hands on it. We learned that the hard way.
Yeah, we did. And we had to redo
We're
all
not
the
even sure if we're
numbers.
gonna let Bill touch it. No.
The sewer numbers, I had to redo all those sewer numbers,
Once West gets all the numbers straightened out. that we want, we should be able to run the balance going forward. And, we decide if we want to get them involved with part of that moving forward. Once it's all established and then maintained, is relatively.
Right.
And that'd be easy to run a report.
But it has to all get resolved, and then from the point of resolution, you gotta keep it.
yeah, we just don't have the historical reporting in order to clear understanding where we're at today. And that's, yeah, so once this is done, that should never happen again.
Yeah, put procedures in place to ensure that it does not happen.
And then you can say, "Karen, can we do this report and put that online?"
And it's always an interesting adventure to do it. When we start the real workshops, you guys all get empty Excel spreadsheets. Like I will move everything to the comp, where then we will work on where it says tentative or preliminary approach.
Yeah,
Yeah, the tentative, those will be blank where the
yeah, we
conversation
take
will
this
come in.
thing and we sit here for however many hours it takes.
Let me know when
To
that
come up
is,
with-
because I will go over your work journal.
Or we'll find you.
So it's a matter of, running tentative columns. Hi.
All right, it's good. Hi there.
Hi.
Let me give you a 5-minute recap, because we're kind of at the end here, so. We have this report which has all the dollar amount, has the budget, but it has the year-to-date on it. But our new accounting firm isn't caught up yet with getting all the information in. So there's not enough meat to go through this to really understand where we are with this.
There's payroll, it's all good. But they don't have the payroll in the new program yet. They're just trying to keep us maintained at the moment, writing checks.
That makes sense.
It made sense, so.
So until they kind of caught up, it really doesn't make sense to go through this. So when they feel they're close, then it'll be a good time to sit down and go through this in more detail. You can do it. You really can. Yeah, I mean, you get to the bottom of page 3 there, it says year-to-date budget 240,000, actual 7,000. Well, that's so yeah. So we didn't spend a lot of time. We spent more time just answering questions so they get a better understanding how the budget works. And what the process is like, and what the accounts are. then we spent some time. Yeah, on that. So I went through like 10 different town budgets
Not quite so.
to see if there was anything in them that would be beneficial for us to add to the both more visibility of the budget.
And.
And there was 5 things that I found, and those printouts represent 5 things. So we talked about those things.
It's like different things, like opening it up to the residents, like showing them more information, so we're not like hiding, so like
So they don't
this.
think they're hiding, right?
Right, it's like the beginning fund balances, then our expenditures, and, you know, then capital, and then what's left, or what should be left.
Just make it more understandable for everybody.
Yeah.
Us.
Yeah, so there was like 2, maybe 3 things that we thought were good to add. One is the one that Carmen just showed you, which is what are the fund balances in the different accounts?
I love that.
What we anticipate is going to be the changes, and then what our target for the fund balances are at the end of that year. And then
This-
folks can see how we do.
The tax cap, the 10-year,
The 10-year thing, the tax rate going back 10 years is a nice little snapshot. So you can see what your assessment was over a 10-year period. So we thought that'd be cool to add. And then the other one was, and it's something that we have to work on, making clearer, this, one of the towns had a tax cap reporting. So basically, here's our budget, and here's some summary items on the budget. Here's what the state says we can raise our taxes by this year without exceeding the cap. Here's how much we're actually doing, are we under, or we over, or whatever. And to add that into the budget too, we don't, other than, you know, if we've got to exceed it, we'll pass a law, we'll vote on it. But there's no document that you can go back on and say, hey, didn't they increase the tax cap 3 years ago? You go back to the budget and see it, did they? There it is. So those are the 3 things that we talked about that we thought that we could add.
It'll be good for everybody.
Yeah, yeah, good for us. Yeah,
Us, yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, over the years, I've scratched my head about this thing several times.
Every year we're scratching.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, yeah. So really, that's that kind of brings us. That's a summary of what we talked about.
Yeah, I apologize.
No.
I was listening.
Yeah.
maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah. But yeah, I encourage you to, you know, if you get some time, hit up some town websites, look at their budgets, you know. Maybe you'll find something else out there that makes sense to add. I know it's tough because you've got your first rodeo, but I mean, basically, you see what our budget is. It's a summary page, and then it's what we're spending on each account. And that's it. There's no other information. And there's, you know, things that aren't necessarily the budget, but it's still really good information. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and once we have, as we said, we talked about before, Weston Company, that new CPA, once they have all these numbers for us, we have a baseline to start from that we can make. It's gonna make it so much easier to have readable budgets that will. A lot of budgets, Mike, I said this when I first came in. A lot of budgets raise more questions than we answer, and we want that to be the other way. That's what it has to be.
One thing is, this has to be in this format, so the font can be bigger. It's only superhuman people can read this.
We need a bigger budget.
Yeah, we need a bigger font. Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Magnifying glass for them.
That's it, right?
That should cover it. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Honestly. We adjourn. I can say.
We are adjourned.